Wow, SignalGate just got a hell of a lot worse after Tulsi Gabbard and the rest of these MAGA stooges were asked very pointed, direct questions under oath, and Tulsi Gabbard ended up betraying Donald Trump in one short answer. All of that coming up right now. As you may not know, The Atlantic released the text this morning that Tulsi Gabbard and the rest of them said were not classified. Here is Tulsi Gabbard confronted with the fact that she lied in her testimony the previous day.
My answer yesterday was based on my recollection or the lack thereof on the details that were posted there. I was not, and what was shared today reflects the fact that I was not directly involved with that part of the Signal chat and replied at the end reflecting the effects, the very brief effects that the National Security Advisor had shared.
So it's your testimony that less than 2 weeks ago, you were on a Signal chat that had all of this information about F-18s and MQ-9 Reapers and targets on strike, and you in that 2-week period simply forgot that that was there. That's your testimony?
My testimony is I did not recall the exact details of what was included there.
That was not your testimony. Your testimony was that you were not aware of anything related to weapons packages, targets, and timing.
Lie. She got caught in a lie. I do not recall is basically like, I am lying to you right now. So this is what she said yesterday.
Before the attack took place.
Senator, I can attest to the fact that there were no classified or intelligence equities that were included in that chat group at any time.
So it's yesterday, as I can 100% guarantee that there is no classified information in that chat. And then today, when they're so stupid. What were they thinking? They thought the reporter's just not going to release it? Then today, when the reporter releases the information, I misremembered. I don't know. That doesn't pass the smell test. Tammy Duckworth here says Pete Hegseth is a fucking liar. I love that we're swearing now. This is so clearly classified info he recklessly leaked that could have gotten our pilots killed. He needs to resign in disgrace immediately. I completely agree. And Fox News actually cut away from the hearing because it was going so terribly for Tulsi, Kash Patel, and all the other MAGA stooges. Watch this moment. Before we get into that moment, if you like independent media, because we live stream this, because this is what happens with legacy media. If you like independent media, like this video, hit subscribe, and help support getting pro-democracy voices out there further.
Times to combat in service to this nation. I learned in that time in service that responsibility is core to leadership. You accept responsibility when things go wrong. You admit mistakes. You set the standard from the very top. It is completely outrageous to me that administration officials come before us today with impunity, no acceptance of responsibility. Excuse after excuse after excuse, while we send our men and women downrange to do incredibly difficult, incredibly dangerous things on our behalf. And yet, nobody is willing to come to us and say this was wrong. This was a breach of security and we won't do it again. It is outrageous and it is a leadership failure, and that's why...
All right, so we are going to leave the House Intelligence Committee hearing.
All right, we're going to leave this hearing because it is not going well for us. And so we don't want the American people to see it, because then they're going to see how stupid and unqualified Trump's administration officials are. And just after they cut away, just after Fox cut away, Crow actually called for Hegseth's resignation, which is so warranted. And I want to go back to this moment from yesterday. Do you remember this? Mike Waltz said that he suggested that Jeffrey Goldberg, the reporter from The Atlantic, somehow schemed his way into the Signal group chat.
The president expressed...
I've got a screenshot for him.
...complete confidence in you today and his entire cabinet. But how did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your Signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there Somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States. And he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
Is someone in?
Yeah, just not a conspiracy theorist, but here's a conspiracy. All right, well, here's a screenshot of the actual group chat, and look at what it says there. Mike Waltz added you to the group. Shall I repeat it? Michael Waltz added you to the group. It wasn't a conspiracy. You're an idiot. You added someone to an unsecure group chat talking about war plans. And here is Tulsi Gabbard saying something that I know pisses off Trump.
Director Gabbard, is Russia a friend or a foe? Are they our friend or our adversary?
They are an adversary.
Thank you.
Woo! That is not going to go well at the White House. She had to say that under oath, and I love that she said it because they are, but that is not the position of the Trump administration. And I'm sure that more than anything is going to be the thing that makes Donald Trump upset from today. And just so you know, the White House is in chaos because J.D. Vance just canceled all public events to Greenland. Gone from the schedule, nuke visit, Susumi stop, even the dog sled championship. You might recall we had a video on that a couple of days ago where J.D. Vance's wife seemed like she was AI posting a video about how they were so excited to go to this dog sled championship. Well, it's been canceled because of the fallout from all of this, because they don't want to be in front of cameras until that either blows over or until they get their lies straight. You tell me which is going to happen first. I don't think they can lie their way out of this one, honestly. And as this reporter says, only thing left, a quiet visit to a space base on Friday. No photo ops, no crowds, no explanation. I don't think there's an explanation needed. And here's what I want to end with. This, I think, is a reasonable line of questioning. Was Pete Hegseth drinking on the job when this all happened? You let me know in the comments what you think Pete Hegseth was doing or not doing. I would guess there is some alcohol involved.
Additionally, the main person who was involved in this thread that a lot of people want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
You know, no, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you want to. I'm going to answer. You asked me a question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You don't want to focus on the good work that the CIA is doing.
Yo, why aren't you focusing on the good work the CIA is doing when you're focusing on the fact that we put our military in jeopardy and that we put our allies in jeopardy and that we probably won't ever get shared intelligence from our allies again? Why aren't you talking about that?
The intelligence community.
Director, I reclaim my time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of every American.
Yeah, Pete Hegseth has a drinking job. Well, he does have a drinking job. He also has a drinking problem. And it is a completely reasonable question to be asking. Now, of course, they're not going to know, but it is something that everyone who has at least a little bit of brains should be asking when you have someone talking about how, well, I'm not going to take the job. If I take the job, I'm not going to drink. As someone who is sober, I can tell you that is something you only say if you should be sober.